I want to show you something most people never learn. Not in school, not from a doctor, not from a gardening blog. 12 plants growing in your backyard right now were once gathered, dried, and used by families in the ancient Near East. The same plants your local pharmacy would charge you $20 an ounce for today. You've probably pulled them out with your bare hands and thrown them away. This isn't folklore dressed up as fact. Every plant on this list has been studied by modern researchers, and in case after case, what they're finding lines up with what people figured out 3,000 years ago through nothing but careful observation. One of these plants is tied to a parable Jesus told that's still quoted today. Another was pressed to his lips on the cross. And the last plant on this list, you've probably killed it more times than any other weed in your yard. I'll show you all 12, what the research actually says about each one, and why the last one changes how you'll see your entire backyard. Let's start. 12. Dandelion. Most people see a stubborn weed. Ancient people saw a plant that wasted nothing. Leaves for food, roots for remedies, flowers as proof that nothing useless really is. Dandelion leaves are loaded with vitamins A, C, and K, potassium, and polyphenols, compounds now studied for antioxidant support and digestion. Not a miracle cure, just a case where old habits and new research actually agree. Maybe that's why it survived generations of people trying to kill it. Ever tried dandelion tea or greens? 11. Plantain. You've stepped on this one barefoot and never noticed. Broad leaves, low to the ground, growing wherever people walk. Some cultures nicknamed it the white man's footprint. The ancient Near East knew it long before that. Scraped knee, blistered feet after a day in the sun. The fix was simple. Crush the leaves into a poultice. Press it on the skin. Researchers have since found allantoin, aucubin, and flavonoids inside it, compounds studied for soothing skin and supporting healing. It won't replace real medical care, but people trusted it for centuries before anyone knew why it worked. Ever spotted this without knowing its name? 10. Purslane. Here's a plant most gardeners rip out assuming it's stealing nutrients from their vegetables. It's actually one of the richest sources of plant-based omega-3s on the planet. For thousands of years, people across the Mediterranean and Middle East ate purslane as both food and medicine. Today we know it's packed with alpha-linolenic acid, an omega-3 tied to heart and brain health, plus vitamin C, vitamin E, magnesium, and potassium. People spend a fortune on fish oil capsules, while this grows free in sidewalk cracks. Just don't harvest near roads or treated lawns. Correct ID matters. Ever pulled this without knowing it was edible? 9. Chickweed. Tiny white flowers, easy to walk right past. But across Europe and the Middle East, chickweed was often the first fresh green after winter, food when nothing else was growing. It carries vitamin C, vitamin A, iron, magnesium, and antioxidants. Traditionally, fresh chickweed became a cooling poultice for irritated skin. The smallest plants are usually the easiest to overlook, and often the most useful. 8. Lamb's quarters. Imagine pulling a weed that's more nutritious than the vegetables you spent months growing. That's lamb's quarters, and across the ancient Near East, people relied on it exactly for that reason. It's rich in vitamins A, C, K, calcium, magnesium, iron, potassium, even protein and fiber, rare for a leafy green. Some nutritionists rank it above spinach. Like spinach, it's traditionally cooked first to cut the oxalates. Ancient people didn't just know what to eat, they knew how to prepare it. Heard of lamb's quarters before today? 7. Stinging nettle. This one fights back. Brush it and you'll feel a sting within seconds. Ancient people didn't avoid it, they respected it. Cook it right, the sting disappears, and you're left with one of the most nutrient-dense greens in Europe and the Middle East. Vitamins A, C, K, iron, calcium, magnesium, potassium, plus flavonoids studied for supporting the body's normal inflammatory response. The plant that warns handle with care turns out to be one of the most generous once you know how. Ever been stung? Tell me what happened. 6. Mallow total personality flip. Soft round leaves, no sting, no smell. Mallow just grows quietly, which is probably why it became one of the most trusted household plants across the Mediterranean and Middle East. It's rich in mucilage, a slippery gel that soothes the throat and digestive tract when steeped. That's likely why it became the go-to for a scratchy throat or dry, irritated skin for generations. The most comforting plants are often the quietest ones. Did you know mallow had this kind of history? 5. Sorrel picture. A field after a brutal winter. Food running low, then a patch of bright green leaves with a sharp lemony bite. Today it's a weed. To your ancestors, it meant better days were coming. Sorrel provides vitamin C, potassium, and antioxidants, exactly what bodies needed after a long winter without fresh produce. One caveat: like other wild greens, it contains oxalic acid, so it's best in moderation. Our ancestors rarely overused what nature gave them. They knew the strengths and the limits. 4. Yarrow. Some plants get famous for their looks. Yarrow got famous for saving people. Long before first aid kits, travelers and shepherds crushed fresh yarrow leaves over cuts and scrapes and wrapped them in cloth. Nobody understood bacteria, they just remembered what worked. Modern research has found flavonoids, tannins, and essential oils in yarrow, studied for antioxidant effects and a possible role in the body's healing process. It's not that every old belief has been proven, it's that a simple wildflower sparked centuries of observation, and science is still asking the same questions. Ever spotted yarrow in the wild? 3. Burdock. Some of the most valuable plants hide their treasure underground. Burdock is the textbook case. Everyone knows the clingy burrs, almost nobody digs for the root. That root contains inulin, a prebiotic fiber that feeds good gut bacteria, tied to digestion and immunity. It also carries antioxidant compounds still under study. People spend money on probiotic supplements while nature packaged the same benefit inside a root we call a nuisance. 2. Wild mustard. Now we're back on biblical ground. A mustard seed is small enough to slip through your fingers, yet it grows into a plant big enough to shelter birds. That's exactly why Jesus used it as a parable. Extraordinary things start unnoticed. But mustard wasn't just a lesson. It was dinner. Leaves cooked as greens, seeds crushed for seasoning and remedies. Scientists now know mustard contains glucosinolates, compounds studied for antioxidant effects, and a role in the body's detox processes. Ancient families never separated food from health. We've since drawn a hard line between weed and vegetable. They just saw gifts. What surprised you most so far? 1. Hyssop, last plant, and the one the whole title is built on. Hyssop isn't remembered for food. It's remembered for the most sacred moments in the Bible, part of the first Passover instructions in Egypt, present in Old Testament purification rites, and, per the Gospel of John, offered on a branch during the crucifixion. For centuries, people assumed its role was purely symbolic. Then researchers studied the aromatic compounds in hyssop and related Mediterranean herbs, finding essential oils like thymol and carvacrol with antimicrobial activity in lab studies. Promising, not proof. Maybe that's the real lesson. Ancient people watched nature closely enough to notice which plants served the body and which carried meaning, sometimes both at once. What you've learned today, these remedies, these principles, they're the beginning of something much larger. The ancient Hebrew healing tradition wasn't built on isolated tips and tricks. It was a complete system, a way of understanding your body, your symptoms, and what your symptoms are actually telling you. If you found this helpful, and you want to go deeper, to understand not just which remedies work, but why they work together, and how to build them into your family's life in a way that actually sticks, I've put together a complete guide. It's in the description below, along with everything you need to start building your own biblical apothecary today. This isn't about perfection, it's about the beginning. Which one surprised you most? Tell me below, and subscribe if you want more of this every week.